Welcome back to the deep dive. We're going to jump right into things today and get right into the Hard Knocks League. We're going to focus on the two new owners this season, DonFest and JC Spartan. Really give you a deep dive on these two guys, their teams, their coaches, salary cap, culture, and rosters, all that fun stuff. And DonFest, those new visuals are awesome. So thanks for that.
Well, each of these owners is starting at a very different point. JC Spartan has taken over the Detroit Prowlers, which is a team labeled Rebuild, and DonFest is at the helm of the Houston Coyotes, which is a team labeled Win Now.
Okay, so right out of the gate, different pressures, different expectations. Let's break down each team, starting with JC Spartan and the Detroit Prowlers. What jumps out to you when you first look at this team?
Well, first thing I see is their culture match is at 30%. Now, it's not terrible, but there's definitely room for improvement. Culture match is basically how well the players' personalities align with the coach's style. The higher the percentage, the better the team cohesion, and usually the better they perform.
So a bit of a work in progress in terms of team chemistry, but that's what rebuilding is all about, right? Finding the right pieces and molding them into a unit. What about their potential for growth? Can JC Spartan develop these players into stars?
Absolutely. Their progression cap is at +0, meaning they have plenty of room to grow their players' attributes. Plus, they have a healthy $48.9 million in salary cap space for Season 1, giving them flexibility to make moves, sign free agents, make trades, whatever they need to do.
Okay, so financially, they're in a good spot. They've got room to grow their players and a decent culture base. Let's talk about some of the key players on the Prowlers roster. Who should we be watching?
Keep an eye on Adam Bunch, their 25-year-old outside linebacker. 5 years of experience, a solid culture rating of +3, meaning he's a good fit with the team philosophy. And he's a cornerstone of that defense. Now, on the flip side of that, they've got Shea Gilmore, their punter, with a -1 culture rating.
A negative culture rating? Is he causing trouble? Should JC Spartan be worried?
Not necessarily. It just means he might not be the ideal fit culturally. Maybe he's a lone wolf, has a different approach to the game. But if he's booming those punts and helping the team win, that negative culture rating might not matter as much. Performance sometimes outweighs personality.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see how JC Spartan navigates those dynamics. Now let's switch gears and talk about DonFest and the Houston Coyotes, a team built to win now. What's the story with them?
The first thing that jumps out is their culture match, a whopping 40%, the highest in the league. That's a team that's already in sync. They're ready to perform at a high level.
Wow, 40%? That's impressive. Sounds like DonFest is walking into a dream scenario. But I'm guessing there has to be a trade-off somewhere, right?
Of course, their salary cap space is significantly smaller than the Prowlers at $54.3 million. It's very typical for win-now teams, though. They've invested heavily in their star players, leaving less room for future acquisitions or big contracts.
So DonFest has a team primed for success, but limited financial flexibility, that's a challenge in itself. It'll be interesting to see how he balances maintaining that winning culture while navigating the salary cap. Before we move on, let's dig a bit deeper into the coaches leading these teams. They play a huge role in shaping the team's identity and ultimately their success, right?
Absolutely. Coaching can make or break a team, especially in a league as competitive as Hard Knocks. Let's start with Justin Hernandez, the coach of the Detroit Prowlers. He's a level 43 coach with a +13 bonus to player progression, +0 to culture, and +3 to chemistry.
Okay, break that down for us. What do those numbers actually mean for the Prowlers' development?
Well, that +13 to player progression is huge for a rebuilding team. It means Hernandez is excellent at developing young talent and helping them reach their full potential. He can spot raw talent and turn it into something special.
So he's the perfect guy for a team like the Prowlers who are looking to build for the future. What about that +0 to culture? Does that mean he neglects the team's overall vibe?
Not at all. A high culture bonus can force a coach's philosophy on the team quickly. But with a +0, Hernandez is letting the team culture evolve more organically. It's a slower process, but it allows the players to develop their own identity.
That makes sense. It's like he's creating a space for the team to grow and find its own voice,
Right.
which is essential for long-term success. And what about that +3 to chemistry?
That suggests Hernandez is good at fostering positive relationships among players. It's all about building that camaraderie and trust that translates to better performance on the field.
So he's a builder, a developer, a relationship guy, exactly what you'd want in a coach for a rebuilding team. Now let's look at the Houston Coyotes and their coach, Michael Walters. He's got some big shoes to fill, leading a team with such high expectations.
Walters is a seasoned veteran, level 46, with +7 to player progression, +4 to culture, and +4 to chemistry. Notice the difference. His strengths lie in culture and chemistry, exactly what you need for a win-now team.
Interesting. So while Hernandez excels at developing raw talent, Walters is more about maximizing the potential of a team that's already loaded with stars. Makes sense given the Coyotes' win-now approach.
Exactly. He's known for establishing a winning mentality, a strong work ethic, and that sense of unity that separates good teams from great ones. That plus forty culture likely plays a big part in the Coyotes' league-leading 40% culture match.
It's like he's taken a team that's already great and injected them with a dose of championship DNA. With those numbers, it's no wonder the Coyotes are considered contenders. But it all comes down to the players, right? Let's talk about some of the standout names on both rosters, starting with the Prowlers.
Well, we already talked about Adam Bunch, their veteran linebacker. Another player to watch is Alex Jackson, their 27-year-old wide receiver. He's their primary offensive weapon, and Bunch has that +3 culture rating, meaning he's bought into the team's vision.
He's that explosive playmaker, the guy who can make something out of nothing, the kind of player who can single-handedly change the momentum of a game. What about the Coyotes? Who are their game changers?
Jeremy Davis, their 30-year-old quarterback, is the leader of that high-powered offense. He's got the experience, the talent, and a +2 culture rating, showing he's a good fit in Walter's system. But it's not just about offense. The Coyotes also have a defensive star in Reginald Simmons, a 28-year-old defensive end with a +3 culture rating.
So they've got a top-tier quarterback, a dominant defensive presence, and a coach who knows how to create a winning environment. The Coyotes definitely seem to have all the ingredients for a championship run.
They do, but remember, even the best teams have to navigate the complexities of the salary cap. Let's shift gears and take a closer look at how each owner is managing their team's finances, because that can have a huge impact on their long-term success.
That's a great point. Salary cap management can make or break a team. Let's dive right in and see what we've got.
So as we mentioned earlier, the Detroit Prowlers have a pretty comfortable $48.9 million in cap space. This gives JC Spartan a lot of options, signing a big-name free agent, extending a key player's contract, or even making a strategic trade.
So he's got a good amount of flexibility, which is crucial during a rebuild. But with that flexibility comes the pressure to make the right moves right.
Absolutely. JC Spartan needs to be thinking short-term and long-term. Does he use that cap space to make a splash now and try to accelerate the rebuild? Or does he play it safe, conserve resources, and focus on developing the players he has?
It's a balancing act for sure. Now the Houston Coyotes are on the opposite end of the spectrum. They're operating with a much tighter budget, just $54.3 million in cap space. How does that impact DonFest's ability to keep this win-now team competitive?
It's definitely a challenge. He has less wiggle room to make those big signings or splash trades. He'll need to be creative with contract negotiations, maybe even make some tough decisions about letting go of veteran players to free up cap space.
So while JC Spartan has the luxury of building for the future, DonFest is in a constant battle to stay under the cap while keeping his star players happy. That adds another layer of intrigue to the season, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and it really highlights the strategic decisions that these owners face. Every signing, every trade, every contract extension has ripple effects on the team's present and future.
It's like a game of chess where each move needs to be carefully calculated. You're not just thinking about the next game, you're thinking about the whole tournament.
Precisely. And that's what makes this Hard Knocks season so fascinating to follow. We have two new owners, two contrasting approaches, and two teams on very different paths.
It's a classic battle between the patient builder and the aggressive competitor. Who will come out on top? Well, that's for you to decide. We've given you the intel on their coaches, rosters, team cultures, and even their salary cap situations. Now it's up to you to analyze the data, make your predictions, and see who comes out on top in this Hard Knocks showdown. Good luck. If you've enjoyed this podcast and want to become part of the action, then head over to progressionfootball.com to jump in an existing league or even create your own. Plenty of stats for limitless debates.